Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for the week of July 22nd through July 30th, 2024. And I'm working with the Collect Story Kit from Ali Edwards. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, you guys, I'm working on this week of July 22nd through 30th. And this is where I say there are no rules with Project Life. So I do Project Life weekly, but that's clearly more than a week. And this is why. So here's my Hobonichi cousin, and these are the stories I have written down kind of to remember what happened this week of July 22nd through 28th. But what I'm doing is I'm going through the 30th until like halfway through the 30th, because on the 30th I left for vacation. So I always want to break my weeks up at the point of vacation. And then going forward the next few weeks, I'm going to do spreads that are very short weeks that include pieces of my vacation. This was a very long vacation. I went to multiple cities. So most cities are going to get their own spread. Two are going to be combined into one. And it's not really going to follow the calendar weeks. And then when I return at the end, I'm going to combine this last little bit with this week, which hasn't happened yet at the point that I'm filming this video. But for this week, I'm working on the 22nd through the 30th, which is going to be a little bit more than a normal week, but that's fine because not a ton was going on. I'm going to put this to the side. I'm working with the Collect Story Kit, and I did plan out this spread in advance. And I didn't have my photos or my stories yet, but I plan to use this kit, and I have my plan for that in that story kit classroom if you want to see that. So I do have that information, that sketch off screen, but I'm not going to show it to you because that is part of the paid content for that class. But if you do want to see it, go check that out in that classroom. So I plan to use this one for my title or my date card, and I want to use the large rolling date stamp. I have this large rolling date stamp from Studio Calico, and I don't use it nearly enough because it's such a pain in the butt to turn this thing. It hurts your hand, but I'm going to do it because I do want to use it, and I'm going to probably have to turn the camera off while I do that because it's going to take forever. So I'm not going to do that at this moment. And then I have this one. So this is the Collect Story Kit, which is kind of general because it's like collecting memories. Like this one, I collect words and photos, which I have just to be like a filler card here. Collecting my thoughts. I wanted to do like some last minute journaling about like getting ready to go. Here's just for my bullet point list. But like this one says currently accumulating. So I'm going to have to be a little creative. And I thought ahead of time, I'd have some stuff for this because this was right before leaving on vacation. So I'm going to kind of use that, like getting ready to travel and those types of things. I think I'll be able to come up with 5 things for there. Then let's see my photos here. So I did print one 4x6 to go in here of pumpkin. And then this one, I printed a 4x4, this photo. And what my plan is to cut this out, and I'll find something in my stash to put as background there and use that to put some journaling. And then I'm just going to kind of arrange these things here. So Summer had her first day of work, which is not really a collect thing. So I'm going to have to decide where I want to put the journaling for that. And I might not put that over here because this card probably will hold the journaling for that one. So let's see. This was the Olympic opening ceremony, which happened this week. We were doing a lot of like watching the Olympics. Actually, I think I might put this here to break up because this and this card are going to be like this. So this one, I want to kind of break it up. I do have this frame too that I wanted to include somewhere. I have this for packing. I could put it around pumpkin, but then you kind of, I don't know if you can see my suitcase so well when I have that on there. I'm going to think about that. I could also put it on Summer. No, her head's too high. Put this on my desk. I'm just thinking where I could put this. Kind of like it there. I'll think about it. And if I don't end up using it, that's fine. Here also. Yeah, I just like this photo. So I think I'm going to put this one of summer over here. I don't love the whites together. I really like those together. There. So that's my last day of work. Okay, so that's a good starting point. And then I also had this one chipboard piece, which I could probably put like here. And then I'm definitely going to bring stuff in for my stash as well, but I like starting with the pieces from the kit. I don't know if I love that. Maybe put it on Pumpkin's head here. Honestly, I think that might be the best spot. No, I don't like it next to that. I might end up just not using this on the spread, which is totally fine. But I was thinking I could put it on one of my photos, but none of them really seem to fit very well. So I might just not use it, which is okay. I'll just put it back into my stash. There we go. Now, okay, I didn't want this photo here. I wanted it by there. I will think about this more as I start putting it together, but I'm going to put you guys on fast forward and start putting my spread together. I'm going to go to my stash first thing and pick out some pattern paper for right here that's going to coordinate as a starting place, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, guys, this is me getting back into project life after my vacation, and I also want to apologize for my voice because I have a little bit of a cold. That's just typical, right? To pick up a cold on vacation. Anyways, so what I decided to do first was cut out this card. It took a little bit because it's like this scalloped edge, but I thought that it would look pretty neat, and I'm happy that I took the time to cut it out because I do like how it looks. And then my plan is to lay it on top of a piece of pattern paper. I pulled over this Vicky Bouton color study 6x8 paper pad that I picked up from scrapbook.com a while ago. I really, really love this collection, and I had wanted the 12x12, but they didn't have it in stock. So I'm just trying a few of the patterns behind this to see if they look good, if they coordinate with the collect story kit, if it's too busy. So that one right there with the circles, I really liked it, but it seemed too busy for the amount of paper that was going to show behind the scalloped oval and my photo. So I went with this stripe one instead. I'm just going to crop it down to 4x6 and create this card. Okay, so cropping it down and adhering everything on it. This is a photo I took for Instagram of the bracelets I made for the Taylor Swift concert that my plan was to go to, and my entire trip was planned around. But now that I am after my trip, I know that my concert was canceled in Vienna due to a risk of a terrorist attack. So I kind of struggled with this one as to what to journal about, because when I created this spread, I knew that my concert was canceled, but at the time that I was creating the spread, that was not even in my head as something that was even a possibility. So I was thinking about it a bit. And so I decided not to journal there yet and to work on the other journaling cards first and come back to that one. So I'm just working on rearranging my photos and trying to get a good balance across the spread. And I realized this one needed to be trimmed a little bit. I had just a lot of little random photos this week. That's my computer on my last day of work. I have some happy mail, a couple photos of me watching the Olympics, my cat getting in my suitcase, sitting out by the pool, just the little things that were going on this week leading up to vacation. So this currently accumulating card, my plan for this was to stamp out things that I was accumulating and tell the story of those. I struggled to come up with what to do, what to list on here, but I did end up making it work by getting a little creative with the stories I wanted to tell. So what I came up with was friendship bracelets, because I was making those this week for my concert. And so that was the first one. Then stuff for Europe, which was the obvious one, which I knew I was going to want to include, because that was, I'm getting ready for vacation. I'd been purchasing things I needed, like a converter and all those little random things you need for a trip. And I was kind of getting them all together during this week. Then I wanted to talk about the Olympics. So I wrote medals, because the United States was accumulating medals at the Olympics. And I wanted to talk about my daughter's new job. So I decided that she was accumulating more hours at work than she was in her old job. So I used that. And then for the last one, I just put memories because there really wasn't much space to journal on this card for the last one. So I wanted to just kind of do a quick, like, I'm always documenting kind of comment on there as opposed to a real story from this week. So I'm using my favorite stamp set that I picked up on Amazon, and I have it linked down in the description box below. This is something I use on so many of my projects and spreads and in my Hobonichi cousin. So I highly recommend it. And it's really cute too on my desk. But I'm just stamping out all of those things that I just listed as my titles on here. And then I'm going to use my Zig dot marker to add like a bullet point after each stamped word, and then do a little bit of handwritten journaling. I kind of struggled with this spread with the theme in terms of what I wanted to write about. When I had planned this spread, I thought during this week I'd be accumulating a lot of stuff, getting ready for this trip. And I really was, but for whatever reason, I kind of struggled with this spread, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. So I'm kind of happy that I pushed myself to think a bit more on how to spin these stories to fit this currently accumulating card. After finishing up this journaling card, I knew I wanted to add more embellishments on this spread than what I had designated when doing my story planning. So when I do my story planning, I do plan these Project Life weeks using the story kits, but I often leave space for additional embellishments. Now, you totally could use story kits without pulling anything from your stash if you wanted to. I tend to plan about 10 projects using a story kit, so I don't have that many embellishments that I designate for Project Life. You can see here I put one chipboard piece and one frame, which I end up not using. So there's only a few embellishments that were in my bag that I had designated for this spread. You could totally do it differently and use more of the embellishments from the kit. But I want to bring in things from my stash. I really have a lot of stash that I want to work through. And You guys have all heard now about the changes coming to story kits and that they are going to be kind of morphed into a new project or new kit that is going to be monthly or quarterly instead of monthly, which I'm super excited about because it's going to give me an opportunity to use up more of my stash and really focus on each kit and kind of crushing it in those 3 months before another kit comes. There on this photo of my cat and the Olympics, I put the chipboard piece from the kit and I went into my stash and pulled out a sticker that says "You got this" from Archer and Olive and decided to include that on top of the chipboard piece just as a little bit of an embellishment. This photo was right next to the photo of my daughter, or right below the photo of my daughter on her first day of work. And I just felt like it was too much of the same color because the wall color on both photos was the same. So to break that up, I decided to add some washi tape. I had this like a blackish one with gold on it that I picked up at a store when I was in Europe. I don't even remember which shop right now. And then this one that has arrows, which is just one of my favorite go-to ones. And I was just thinking about what else I wanted to include, and I decided to pull over some word phrase strips from my stash. I chose to bring some black ones over this time, mostly because this kit has a lot of color and the spread has a lot of color. So I thought bringing a neutral over would make a lot of sense. I also felt like I have a lot of black word phrase strips in my stash, so I wanted to use some up. On this photo of my daughter, I pulled over a label from my stash to write on there "First Day at Starbucks." I didn't really need to write that on there because I did journal about her getting a new job on the currently accumulating card, but I wanted to just kind of designate that that's what this was a photo of. And so you can see she's working at Starbucks now. So she had her Starbucks apron and she was all ready to go in for her first day. I went over to my stash again because I felt like it just needed something else on here. And I ended up pulling over this sticker set that I got from scrapbook.com. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's just a plain gold star sticker that I wanted to put on there just to add a little something, but again, not bring in too much color. And then I used my tiny attacher because I like to add a little bit of texture. And now that I've used my tiny attacher, I'm leaving it out on my desk on purpose because I want to use it again. I like to have that continuation across the spread of using the same supplies over and over. So once I use something like my tiny attacher or my sewing machine, I keep it in mind to use it again on the same spread. This card here says collecting my thoughts. So I decided to just journal overall about kind of like the feeling of this week. It was kind of a rough week. Everyone was stressed. It was just a lot going on, a lot of anxiety leading up to vacation. So I was super excited for my vacation, but this is probably the longest trip I've ever been on. Second longest. It's the longest I've been on as an adult and the longest I've been out of the United States. Plus, I was going to a few countries that were not quite as safe as countries that I've been to in the past. Not that they were unsafe countries, but I haven't really been that many places other than Western Europe or Canada, or the Caribbean on all inclusive. So this was really an adventure for me and getting me outside of my comfort zone, which I'm so thrilled that I did, and I had a great time, but I just kind of was journaling a little bit about that. Then I pulled over 3 of the photos from the spread because my plan was to add chipboard pieces on them. So my chipboard organization is in a drawer right underneath my desk where I am creating. Unfortunately, you can't see it on camera and it's too hard to pull all of the trays out. Some of the trays are kind of like attached to each other. I have a whole video on my chipboard organization, which I will link for you guys down below if you're interested in seeing that one. But I'm just going through chipboard pieces to find ones that coordinate with my spread. And so I'd look through the travel ones for the one of my cat in my suitcase when I was packing, and I looked for the outdoor ones for the pool, and then the work one I looked through my work section. I originally wanted to do all circles, so I was looking for ones that were circles, but then I found that one that says "so cool" by the pool, and the color and the shape and the sentiment worked so perfectly with that pool photo that I changed it up. and decided to do that rectangle rather than get another circle for that one. I did look through quite a bit to find one for my work one. I wanted something like out of office or something like that, but I couldn't find one. So what I ended up going with was showing up and doing the work, because that's really what I was doing this week. I was doing so much work, catching up in the office and also at home, just making sure that I had content created for you guys while I was out, and also like the house was clean and getting my daughter ready because she was going back to college very, very quickly after we came back from vacation. So we had some paperwork and things to do before then. So I'm just going ahead and sticking these chipboard pieces down. They end up not really coordinating with each other at all, which is totally fine. I just like the idea that there are chipboard pieces on multiple photos. So it's a repeated style of product, even though they don't really go together. So I think that it works. And I do think that this spread ends up being kind of eclectic and busy, but I do like it. And I think that that style really worked, especially with this kit. Now I'm pulling over my title card. You had seen me use that mega date stamp from Studio Calico at the beginning to add the dates on it, but I still felt like there was too much white space on there. So I ended up going through my stash of arrows because I wanted to put some arrows kind of like pointing to the dates. And my original thought was to do two, one for each date, but I saw this cork one and decided that just one right in the middle worked really well. So I put that on there, and I still felt like it was missing something. So I went into my stash of washi again and pulled out a new washi tape that I just received from the Coffee Monster Co. And it's just this cute little guy with like leaves on his head. And it really has nothing to do with the spread, but I feel like the color worked perfectly because the green of the little leaves on his head were the exact same shade as the green on the card where it says collecting memories, and like the green in this kit. So I rolled that on there, and then I just go ahead and cut off the edges. I was picking at it a bit because I had some cat hair stuck to it. But that is it for that card. So now I think all I have left is my journaling on this card and on the one by my hands. Again, like I said, I struggled with what to write on that one with my hands because I knew the concert was going to be canceled at the point that I was documenting this. But so I decided to do this one first, and I struggled to try to see like kind of what do I want to do. Oh, I ended up doing this one first on with my hands. I was wanting to do the bullet point first, and you could tell I was definitely struggling with what to write on everything. So what I decided to write about here was how I was excited for this vacation and how we had planned the vacation around the Eras tour and how it had kind of prompted us to go on vacation at this point in time and go to these specific countries. I think that in hindsight, it is very good to kind of frame that because, you know, it sucked that I didn't get to go to my concert, this was an expensive trip. I flew like 5,000 miles to go there, but it's still, I would have gone anyway. Maybe not right now, maybe not, at those specific countries at this point in time, but I'm happy that I did. I'm happy that I saw them, and the trip was still a lot of fun. So I didn't write about the concert being canceled here, but I just wrote about how I was happy that this concert prompted us to go to these places and how I would have liked to go there anyway, but I would probably not have gotten there at this point in time, but for the concert. I added a few staples, and then I wanted to add another word phrase strip on there. So I just added another little black one that I had pulled out earlier. And then I'm finally going to move on to my journaling on my bullet point list, which is the stripe card. So a lot of these kits do come with these stripe cards. I think that this is kind of like a pattern that's sort of a go-to in a lot of kits, is these colorful stripe cards from Studio Calico or Ali Edwards. And I like them for bullet point lists, and they're also fun for alternating styles of writing. So I decided to pull over some enamel dots from my stash. I'm just using brown because, again, I didn't want to bring too much color in. This card is already colorful enough, so I didn't need to bring in any more colors. And I'm just using them to create a bullet point and add some journaling about things that happened this week. So I'm looking off camera at my Hobonichi cousin to get some additional like jog my memory about what I wanted to add on here. I'm also using some of my Sharpie creative markers. I wrote eye appointment right there with the white one, and later on this card, I'm going to use the black one to write another thing. I really like those Sharpie creative markers, and I have a link for them in the description box below. They are one of my new favorites, and I'm super excited to play with them in Project Life. I have another spread recently where I used them in Project Life quite a bit. So if you're excited to see more about how those work before you purchase them, or if you're considering purchasing them, I would check out that video. It is the week prior to this, or 2 weeks prior to this one. So this is week 30. So that's week 28 if you wanted to go ahead and see that one. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thanks. Bye.